The Baltimore Orioles, who are having, the most remarkable season they've had in the last 10 years at least. Just I think they have the second best record in baseball or the American League. It's something like that. But they're doing it the right way. They're building through their system. They have called up all sorts of prospects through, and they're all coming together to form a really formidable team. Unfortunately, they somehow want to shoot themselves in their own foot and ruin this great feeling by
Yes.
mysteriously suspending their pretty well-known and beloved broadcaster, Kevin Brown, for not being positive enough, I guess is how you'd phrase it. They thought he was being negative when he brought up on a pregame show in Tampa Bay that the Orioles had won more games in Tropicana Field this year than they had in the previous 3 years combined.
Yeah, I don't know why stating facts is such a bad thing.
Number one, that's a fact. Number two, that sounds really positive to me. They've
Yeah.
turned things around as this positive vibe is permeating throughout Baltimore, but somehow John Angelos, owner of the Angels or of the Orioles, says, I guess that's not good enough. You need to be even more positive. Don't bring up anything from the past. Only positivity. That's all we want out of our announcers. And he was mysteriously suspended. It wasn't even really announced. People just sort of figured it out that he was gone. He actually was removed from the TV broadcast and was on a radio call, I think, the next day. And then he was gone from all of those for the better part of a week before I believe it was a Reddit feed or whatever you call it, that started to bring it up, and they all realized, I think this guy's been suspended. And it ended up being true that he was suspended for not being positive enough, I guess, for Angelos's liking.
What puzzles me about this is I watched it, and I don't think anyone thought he said anything wrong, but there's a whole team of producers, right?
Yeah.
And they must have put together, it wasn't like he came in and said, hey, let's talk about how things have been bad here at Tropicana Field.
He did not go rogue, to your point. Yeah.
And he's the one
that takes the brunt.
There
was a graphic made that he was reading over.
Yes.
It was in the pregame game notes produced by the Orioles. It's just it's a fact also, and it's a positive fact. So it is bizarre. It is small-minded. It is just small of John Angelos to do this.
I don't even know. I don't understand it. And Benetti is friends with them, and so this is really funny. Here's the quote. Top of the second inning the other night against the Yankees, he goes, it's pointed out that New York has beaten first place Baltimore 6 times this season, and then added, I hope I don't get suspended by the Orioles for saying that.
That's the best thing. Like all these broadcasters, they probably almost all of them went to school together. Everybody goes to Syracuse essentially. So they all know each other. And that's the best part of this, is they can kind of come to each other's aid, because the same night that Benetti was making jokes about that, there were like 10 different broadcasters that were either like directly commenting about it or joking about it, like bringing light to what a ridiculous situation this is. So it's kind of cool to see the brotherhood get together and say, this is outrageous what's happening here. Probably for fear that it could happen to them as well. If this current climate continues, where just stating facts is an issue with ownership for whatever reason.
I remember the Tribune Company with Stone.
Well, we've got that to talk about for sure. That's a little bit different.
That's a little different because there was negative opinions expressed, but there were also things he was statistically stating as fact.
Yeah. The biggest difference is it wasn't the Tribune. It was Ken Merker that was having an issue with it. He actually went up to the booth and confronted Steve Stone about it. So it was the childish 2004 Chicago Cubs that had the problem with it. That team is such a disaster in so many ways, so disappointing in so many ways. But that being the most embarrassing aspect of it, Stone wasn't actually fired. He quit because the atmosphere was so ridiculous in his mind, and I don't blame
Oh,
him.
for some reason, I always read it as
That's what I thought.
he
I
was
had to look it
fired.
up. Yeah, no,
Interesting.
he was not, but that was a similar ridiculous situation. That didn't involve ownership, at least, but the idea that it could be led by a player is even more thin-skinned and ridiculous. But I had one more point. Oh, I know. This is not unheard of within the history of the Baltimore Orioles. In
Interesting.
fact, a very similar situation played out in the late 90s with John Miller, who you are
Oh,
intimately
I
familiar
love
with,
John Miller.
being the Giants. He's a radio announcer with the Giants, isn't he?
He
Yeah,
does
he must be.
NBC too when they're on NBC.
Okay. Well, and of
Yeah,
course, he
TV.
was famous nationally as doing ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Unfortunately, with Joe Morgan, who was annoying as fuck. But John Miller was always, thought he was like the voice of God, the voice of
Yeah, no,
baseball. Just
it was good. It was good back then.
he and
It's
he
not
had
now.
no, but uh, it's they actually John Angelos' father, Peter Angelos, the original owner of or the previous owner of the Orioles, actually did a similar thing when apparently John Miller wasn't being positive enough and actually fired him. And it was a gift from heaven for Giants fans that he moved over there and has been their announcer for I think it's 27 years now that he's been their broadcaster. So it's just sad that the Orioles are finally being, they have a great team for the first time in for fucking ever. And they've immediately turned that to shit in the public opinion for such a ridiculously small-minded action like this, and just universally unpopular. I heard someone else bring up on I think it was Danny Parkins on Parkins and Spiegel. He brought up like how in sports, politics, anything these days, there's no universal opinion. People will argue about everything, one way or the other about anything. But this particular issue, there's no one that is on the Orioles side on this. Oh,
Right.
everybody's
No, I
Kevin
mean,
Brown's side. So this is just universally panned by the world. So wow, John Angelos and the Baltimore Orioles, you are our assholes of the week.
Word Hole Media.